At the end of this video, there will be a short guided meditation, so feel free to stay with me through the final moments or return to it whenever you feel ready to explore the ideas we discussed in a more direct, experiential way. Most people assume consciousness is fixed, that the way they think, react, and experience reality right now is simply how the mind works. But researcher Itzhak Bentov proposed something far more disruptive, that human awareness actually develops in stages, and that most individuals spend their entire lives operating within only the first few, without ever realizing higher modes of perception are available, beginning with the first stage, survival consciousness, where attention is dominated by immediate needs, stress responses, daily pressures, and reacting to the external world moment by moment, followed by the second stage, self-aware consciousness, where a person begins to observe their own thoughts instead of being unconsciously driven by them, noticing emotional patterns, questioning automatic habits, and gaining the first sense of internal direction. And this is where many people remain, moving back and forth between reacting and reflecting, never realizing there are entirely different levels of perception beyond the mental noise they have grown used to. Then comes the third stage, expanded mental consciousness, where intuition strengthens, creativity increases, and insight begins arriving in non-linear ways, solutions appearing not only through step-by-step reasoning, but through sudden clarity that seems to assemble itself, leading into the fourth stage, integrative consciousness, where awareness begins recognizing deep patterns connecting people, events, and systems across time. Perception shifts from isolated moments to interconnected processes. Emotional stability increases, empathy deepens, and decision-making becomes guided less by pressure and more by coherence. And it is here that many begin to sense that consciousness itself is not limited to the small, internal voice they once identified with. Yet the transition toward the fifth stage, unified consciousness, is where many hesitate because it requires releasing the illusion that control comes from constant mental tension, and instead developing the ability to hold awareness steady without forcing outcomes. And in this final stage, awareness begins to experience itself not as a separate observer, pushing against reality, but as an active participant within a larger intelligent process, where perception becomes quieter, clarity becomes sharper, and actions naturally align with long-term outcomes rather than short-term impulses. And Bentov's most powerful insight was not that these stages belong to rare individuals, but that they represent a natural trajectory available to anyone willing to cultivate sustained attention and deeper self-observation. Meaning the greatest limitation most people face is not intelligence, opportunity, or circumstance, but simply never realizing that the level of consciousness they operate from determines how reality itself appears to them. And when that level changes, the world they thought they were living in quietly begins to change with it. Across cultures, philosophies, and spiritual traditions, the language may differ, but the trajectory is strikingly similar. Ancient Eastern teachings speak of awakening layers of awareness. Western philosophical schools describe the refinement of reason and perception. Modern psychology explores developmental stages of cognition and identity. Contemplative traditions emphasize stillness and self-observation. And even cutting-edge neuroscience now studies how attention reshapes the structure and functioning of the brain itself. Yet beneath the terminology, symbols, and methods, they all circle back to the same underlying realization: that human beings are not locked into a single level of perception, that awareness itself can mature, stabilize, and expand, and that the real transformation spoken of across these systems is not the adoption of a new belief, but the gradual shift in how reality is directly experienced, and the mind becomes clear enough to see beyond its own automatic patterns. And now, let's begin the meditation. Before we begin, set the simple intention not to achieve anything but to observe. because the purpose of this meditation is to experience directly that awareness is not fixed, that it can become clearer, steadier, and more expansive. When given the space to do so, sit comfortably. Allow your spine to rise naturally without tension. Relax your shoulders. Let your hands rest easily and gently close your eyes or soften your gaze as you bring your attention to your breathing. Noticing the inhale as it enters and the exhale as it leaves, allowing the rhythm to move naturally. And with each exhale, imagine the surface tension of the day slowly dissolving, while silently repeating, I am here, I am present. And as thoughts begin to appear, notice them the way you would notice distant sounds, present but not requiring engagement. Letting them pass, while returning gently to the breath and repeating, I observe without reacting, I am aware. Then begin shifting your attention to the quiet space underneath the stream of thinking, the awareness that is already noticing everything. Resting your attention there for a few moments while breathing calmly and repeating, I am still, I am clear. Now gently reflect without searching for an answer. If thoughts can be observed and emotions can be observed, what is the awareness that is observing them? Letting the question remain open as your breathing stays steady and your awareness begins to widen slightly. Not drifting away, but expanding to include the sensations of your body. The space around you. Presence of this moment, quietly affirming, I am more than my thoughts. I am open to deeper awareness. Allowing this openness to settle naturally while repeating slowly, I am calm. I am centered. I am expanding in awareness. And remain here for several breaths, recognizing that awareness is not locked into a single level of perception, but can mature, stabilize, and expand as attention becomes less entangled in automatic patterns. Now imagine, just above you in the quiet space of the mind, a luminous pendulum gently swinging back and forth in a slow, steady rhythm. Moving left and right. Left and right. Each swing smooth and effortless, and as it moves, allow your breathing to match that calm rhythm, inhaling as it swings one direction and exhaling as it returns. feeling your mind naturally settling into the same steady flow, and with each swing quietly affirm, I am balanced, imagining that with every pass the pendulum clears a little more mental tension, a little more scattered thinking, leaving behind a calmer, clearer awareness. And as you follow the motion without forcing concentration, simply observing the smooth arc of the swing, repeat softly within. My awareness is steady, my mind is clear. The more gently you observe the motion, the quieter the mind becomes, as though your thoughts themselves are beginning to move in the same slow rhythm, calm, centered, and stable. Now slowly notice the pendulum beginning to reduce its swing, the wide arcs becoming smaller and softer, left, right, each movement gentler than the last, as though the very space around it is growing still, and as the pendulum's motion quiets, allow your breathing to quiet with it. Longer exhales, softer inhales. Feeling your awareness settling into the same stillness until the pendulum finally comes to rest at its center point. Perfectly balanced, perfectly steady. No longer moving, yet glowing slightly brighter than before, as if all the motion it once carried has gathered into a single point of calm presence. And for a moment, simply rest your attention there, sensing that same stillness within yourself, recognizing that just as the pendulum returns to center, awareness too can always return to its natural state of clarity, balance, and quiet strength, and remain here for a few breaths, noticing how calm does not need to be created. It only needs the space to appear. Gently bringing small movements back into your fingers and shoulders, opening your eyes when ready, and moving forward with the understanding that clarity is not something you must chase. It is something that naturally appears whenever awareness is given the space to rest in itself. Humanfluence out.